Hello everyone, Johnny Hurricane here from GamersHeroes.com, and why don't you sit back, relax, and let me tell you about Phantasy Star Online 2. Let's get started. And so we're all clear, this preview is based upon the closed beta that happened on the Xbox One in early February, and I was using the original Xbox One. I have not played Phantasy Star Online 2 up to this point, but I did put a lot of time into the original Phantasy Star Online. So this is just from a fresh player perspective, haven't played on the Japanese servers or anything like that. When you first start the game, you are going to create your character. You get to select from a few different races and a few different classes. Most importantly, you can make your guy look like a Gundam. That's what I went with, because why not? You can be a robot, a human, an elf, male or female, doesn't matter. There's a ton of customization options, ton of colors. There is some stuff that is locked behind a paywall. That's what I've been led to believe anyways. I could not access the pay store in the beta, but you better believe that there is one. Once you make your character, you are just kind of thrust into it. You are this recruit of the Arcs. You're just trying to survive, basically, fighting off these, what are known as the Fall Spawn. I did not put a ton of time into the story in the beta, I just wanted to play. But the Fall Spawn are the main enemies. After you get through the tutorial and meet this kind of annoying, I want to say Australian, I think that's what they were going for, character, you're put into the Arc ship and you're allowed to basically go your own way. You don't have to do the story. You can do free missions, side missions. You can just explore. There's a casino. There's a ton of stuff. That is one thing I will say. It can be a little overwhelming because the game has been out in Japan for a long time, and from what I could tell, we're getting everything right away. What it reminded me of, I started playing Final Fantasy XIV last year during Stormblood, right before Shadowbringers, and just how much stuff is on the screen. That is what it really reminded me of. It's not quite as overwhelming, but it does take a hot second to get used to. Just don't be deterred by it. If you're really interested in playing, you will get used to it, trust me. After you take a mission or want to go on exploration, if you wish to play with other players, which you can play most of the missions with other players. I think there are some story ones that are single player only, but for the most part, you can play this entire thing co-op. Up to 4 people in a party, up to 12 in a room, but you cannot be grouped up with those other 8 players. Anyways, let's say you want to join a random party, which is very easy to do. I'm very grateful for that. As soon as you do that, you then load into their specific lobby. From there, you load into the pre-game lobby, and then from there, you load into the missions. That's 3 loading screens if you're joining some random people. It's not a long load, but the game is old, and some of the things are starting to catch up with it, you can tell, especially the graphics. If you get close to it, it's a little rough. I'm not saying that any of this deterred me from having a good time, which I did. I'm just letting you guys know there's a lot of loading, and the game looks a little rough. When you're actually in the arena, the forest or the cave or wherever your mission is or your exploration job is, like I said, you can have a party of 4. There can be 8 other players in that lobby as well. These parts, they're not actually that big. There's generally 3 or 4 places you go through in like the forest or the snowy area or the cave or whatever. But there are events. It's kind of similar to how like Destiny or even an old school Guild Wars, something like that, or even World of Warcraft. Like MMOs, like as long as you get in and get a hit, get a kill, you get experience, you get money for those events. These happen while you are doing your mission, so you can just stay inside an area for as long as you want. There were no timed missions for me, except urgent quests, but we'll get into that in a minute. So if you just want to grind in the forest or in the lava area, you can do that. That's not a big deal. Missions happen pretty frequently. It seemed like generally, as long as I was moving from place to place, I constantly had stuff to do. Big question is, how is the combat? Because that is really what you're going to spend most of your time doing. And there are good parts about it and not so good parts about it. First and foremost, it is pretty simple to pull off what they call perfect attacks. Basically, when you swing, you wait, I would say half a second, maybe a little longer, maybe a little less, and then a red orb basically appears within you, and then you attack again. And that is a perfect attack, and then you attack again. You just keep doing that over and over with your basic attacks to maximize your damage and speed. There are skills and magic attacks as well. I did not get to use any magic. As you can see, I am a robot, I am a hunter. I basically focused on melee. I couldn't even use the basic heal, so I don't think I had enough mana to use any type of spell. However, skills, I got to use a bunch of those. These are pretty fun. Now, Here's where some problems come in though. I have certain skills like a whip that I grab a guy and then I slam him into other people. That only works on the kind of small and not boss type enemies. You don't expect to pick up a whale with it and throw it, but still, there were certain enemies that were a little bit taller that I feel like things like that should work. To me, a move like that is only going to be useful if you're going to be able to use it on nearly every enemy. It still does damage even if it doesn't throw them, but there are a couple of moves like that, and from what I read online at least, I'm not 100% sure on this, there was actually magic attacks missing. Not entirely sure why, but apparently that's how that went. Most of the moves are pretty cool though. Like you got a move that you can just, with your lance, you jab in, and then you do a spin attack, and it's basically to increase your combos, do massive amount of damage, while you lose your PP, which is your mana basically. You learn these through discs, and you get higher level ones as you fight enemies and kill enemies, search crates, things like that. Some of them you can't learn until you get to higher level or higher stats, but for the most part, I want to say I had, between my 3 different weapons, roughly about 15 special moves, and that was just on my hunter class. There are ones that are specific to other classes. Now, I did have a problem with a big thing in the game, which is the lock-on system. I don't use lock-on systems hardly ever, and it's for this exact reason. They can get you into bad situations. The lock-on in this game, I don't know if I was just not using it properly, but when I wanted to lock onto, let's say, the back left leg of a large enemy, it seemed to just go to the opposite side of where I wanted it to go, which is fine. I just don't use the lock-on. But if you don't use the lock-on, of course, you have a hard time targeting specific parts of the enemy. So you're kind of in a catch-22 here of like, okay, do I mess with my camera, mess with my vision, just to lock on to what I want, or do I just go Rambo and see what happens? Again, this is kind of like, it's an older game, and the design of the game, that is where the problems are. With bigger enemies, like you can sometimes go into their leg, and your character is just within that being. Lock-on's not going to help. Lack of lock-on's not going to help. You just got to swing and hope you don't get hit. Every now and then, there is what is called an urgent quest. This is basically a super, well, I don't know about super hard, but hard quest where I didn't have anyone in my party, but I couldn't join anyone's party. So I think if you go in with a party, you're okay. But if you're looking for a party, it doesn't work that way. Basically, all 12 people within that instance are trying to complete the urgent quest together. Some of these are going from area to area, fighting enemies and mini bosses until you get to the main boss. The ones towards the end of the beta were just large bosses. These happen frequently. I don't know if they will happen as frequently when the main game comes out. These were every, I think, 2 or 3 hours generally while the closed beta was going. And of course it had, so we're all clear, there was some maintenance as soon as the game launched. I think it was up for a half hour, and then it was down for like 4. Don't underestimate gamers. They're hungry for games. If you give them a shot, they're just going to flood it. They did fix it, and there weren't any issues past that, for me at least. There was some server lag, maybe some frame drops. I don't know if that's because of the Xbox or the servers, though. The main reason to do these quests, generally, of course, would be get loot, of which there is quite a bit. So much, in fact, that you will often find yourself, after 1 or 2 missions, full in your inventory. From what I could see from the tip was, hey, if you want to increase your inventory, which is 50 slots, you need to buy it with real money. I don't know if that means your personal bank storage or your actual character inventory, because they drop a lot of items and you will fill that thing up quick. That is such an annoying thing to me. I hate it when it's locked behind something, especially when you got to pay for it. Your storage is like 300 and then 300, so you have 600 storage, but if you're in a mission and you have max items, you can't send them to storage. You have to either just card them, use them, feed them to your mag. Yes, the mags are back. Or just leave them, which sucks. It's fine if you need to feed your mag. You can just give them to your mag, which generally will free up 3 slots, which is normally enough for you to get what you need. But if your mag's not hungry, or you have a bunch of special items, you know, it gets a little tricky. Just don't be stingy with inventory. I hate when games do that. Just encumbrance sucks. Last couple things I want to hit on here. I believe there were, from what I don't know if these were all of them, but in the beta, it looked like there was roughly 10 or so areas. You can play normal, hard, very hard, and extreme, something like that. I don't remember the exact levels of the difficulty, but there were 4 variations per area. Oh, and I should have mentioned this earlier. On top of encumbrance for your inventory, you can only hold 20 quests. And I know what you're saying, Johnny, 20 quests is a lot of freaking quests. No. There's probably about, and I probably didn't even unlock them all, probably about 15 people with 10 quests each, plus your daily quest. There's just no freaking way. And again, it's like, well, boo-hoo, you got too much stuff to do. Yeah, the game's been out forever. It's just, we're jumping in fresh. If we haven't played on Japanese server, which the majority of us probably have not, we're jumping in fresh, and there's a lot to take in. Might have to reel it back a little bit, that's all I'm saying. Or just let us take every single quest and let us hold 100 items. 100's not even that much either. I also have to, of course, mention that there are actual in-game concerts and ads. I saw the Sonic the Movie ad running in the background. But the concert will give you a buff. I think it was 15 minutes. They dubbed it. It was in English. It was an interesting event. While this was happening, there were so many people watching it. I say so many people. There's probably like 50 or 60. But the game couldn't handle it. People's their colors were disappearing. They were just turned into these polygonal blocks of just black and gray. It was I actually kind of thought, oh, someone looks, wow, that's low poly, like that's good design, bro. No, it wasn't their fault. It was the game, just too many people. Not something you have to participate in, but you get a buff and it's kind of fun to watch everyone jumping around and see that the game can't handle what's going on with all the people. There is a personal space and an alliance space, which basically the alliance is your guild. Personal space, I could only put like 5 items down, which is like, why bother at that point? Personal or alliance space, I couldn't do anything because I was just a member, but it's kind of a cool spot when you get a buff from the tree in there. Despite the very obvious technical limitations of this game, I did have a really good time with it. It was basically my whole Saturday, and then I got done eating dinner on Sunday and figured out the servers were going to be up for a little bit longer. So I decided that that was going to be my Sunday evening, and that's what I did. Did those urgent quests until it was down. Now we just have to wait for the next. I would say they're probably ready for an open beta at this point. So next would probably be an open beta or another closed beta, because I think the game's launching in spring of 2020. It's right around the corner. Anyways, I enjoyed it. 2 thumbs up for me. I would recommend, if you can, probably playing it on PC, just because the Xbox One, at least the original, like I said, was having some issues, but it never crashed. It did freeze once, but it never crashed. Either way, if you can play it and it looks like, you know, hey, I can blow a couple days on this, it's going to be free. Just go ahead and check it out. All right, that'll do it for me. If you liked what you saw and got what you needed, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys in the next video. Later, Gators.